Okay, so welcome to our seminar, The Power of Humour. This is, I think, about our 21st seminar for the year. So there's quite a lot of discussions and things going on here. But today we have the great pleasure of hearing from Dr. Dina Oleimy, who's a postdoctoral fellow and a lecturer at the British University in Egypt. Her main research interests are in digital cultural practices, especially webcomics, she says. And she asks how these practices use humor to create alternative discourses that challenge official ones. So she's developed a model to analyze how humorous messages are formulated visually and verbally, and has published extensively on topics related to Egyptian comedy, including a book publication in 2015. So today she'll be talking to us about, this is a mouthful, Laughtivistic webcomics. This is a term coined for comics that are generated and posted on digital platforms. And as the term suggests, they use humor to get messages across from web cartoonists to their audiences. And what she will argue is that digital platforms have become attractive liminal spaces that allow this kind of new genre to flourish. And she'll explore this liminality through the lens of Bakhtin's theory of Carnival. So it all sounds very interesting. Welcome again, Dina. I'm very much looking forward to your presentation, and I'll hand over to you now.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning, all from Cairo. I would first like to thank both Andrea and Jenny for their efforts to organize and handle this seminar, the effort you exerted to create the posters and the selection of all the topics related to humor. So thank you so much for this. And it's a real pleasure being part of this event. So allow me to share my screen. Yeah. And here is the presentation. Yeah, so is it visible to everybody? Yes. Is it visible to everybody? Can you all see it? Yes.
Yes, it's fine.
Yeah, okay. So let me introduce you to today's topic. It is Carnival in Liminal Spaces, Egyptian webcomics as representative of counter publics and alternative knowledge production. And here is the agenda. The first point is the aim. The second is the key concepts. And there are three concepts that constitute the conceptual framework of my research. They are liminality, carnival laughter, and Laughtivistic webcomics. And then this is the model of webcomics analysis, which based on analyzing the visual language, verbal language that both constitute or create the webcomics, and there is a huge part dedicated to analyzing the readers' response patterns. They provide or they create to respond to the webcomics posted. And then the conclusion, where I discuss the findings of my research. Okay, and let us begin with the aim. And the aim of this research is to investigate how, let me just move the pen here. Yeah, how digital liminal spaces contribute to creating a virtual carnivalesque atmosphere that transfers resistance from the borders of the real world to the open and free digital sphere. Now moving to key concepts. So the first is liminality. The term was coined by French anthropologist Arnold van Gennep, who introduced it in his book, The Rites of Passage. He emphasizes that the rites of passage has a cycle that marks the movement from one state to another. In this sense, change, he asserts, is considered as an essential part of human life. He claims that transition is looked as implicit in the very fact of existence, so that a man's life comes to be made of succession of stages with similar ends and beginnings. He classifies the rite of passage into three stages. The first represents preliminal rights or rights of separation, which indicate the subject's detachment from their previous state or condition. The second is liminal rights or rights of transition. In this stage, change occurs in a way that enables subjects abandon their old state to get ready for the new one. At this moment, subjects are experiencing a liminal state where they are in an in-between condition, meaning that they are neither living the old state nor reaching the new one. The third and last stage is the post-liminal rights, or the rights of incorporation, which manifest the subject's return to their new, relatively stable, well-defined position in the total society. In 1983, in its essay, Liminal to Liminoid, Dr. Turner revisited the notion of liminality. Despite the fact he keeps the three stages of the rite of passage cycle as they are, he just changes their names. His major contribution lies in introducing the two terms, liminoid and communitas. Regarding the first term, if liminal experience, according to Turner, relates to rituals occurred in pre-technology societies, liminoid experience is a better term that precisely describes industrial and post-industrial societies in which technology plays a vital role in changing people's life. To explain this more, Turner emphasizes that liminoid experiences can be described as ones that involve ledger, which Turner defines as a non-work or anti-work phase in a person's life. Thus, ledger practices are always generated apart from work settings. One of the major characteristics that differentiates the notion of liminoid from liminality is related to the fact that liminoid activities are totally subject to individuals' choice, which indicates less interference and control from society. Moving to the second feature, it is manifested in the connection between liminoidity and the notions of freedom and creativity. Turner emphasizes that leisure time is associated with two types of freedom. The first is the freedom from a whole heap of institutional obligations prescribed by the basic forms of social, technological, and bureaucratic organization, to the freedom to enter, even generate new symbolic worlds of entertainment. Therefore, leisure productions manifest the individual's ability to abandon regulations to create a world of playing freely with words, ideas, and fantasies, as Turner claims. One freedom is felt in the leisure sphere. Creativity is present to assert the power of the individual subject. The last feature that describes liminoid experiences is the stress on individuality. Turner emphasizes that liminoid activities could be possibly collective. However, they are still more characteristically individual products with often collective or mass effects. Moving to Turner's other contribution, which is evident in his description of liminars as communitas or the threshold people. The term represents the collective power of those individuals who accept to be part of a specific liminoid experience. To describe communitas, Turner claims, if society stands for structured, differentiated positions with many types of evaluation, separating men in terms of more or less, communities, in contrast, are liminal entities described as unstructured or regimentarily structured and relatively undifferentiated communities, or even equal individuals who stand betwixt and between the positions arrayed by law, custom, and convention. The question now is how humor correlates with the notion of the liminoid. Well, the answer takes us to the second key concept, which is carnival laughter. In his book, Revelry in His World, Russian philosopher Mikhail Bakhtin emphasizes that laughter is considered the core aspect that distinguishes medieval carnivals from official festivals. He believes that the power of carnival laughter goes back to the following reasons. It is, first of all, a festive laughter. Therefore, it is not an individual reaction to some isolated comic event. It is the laughter of all the people. Second, it is universal in scope. It is directed at all and everyone, including the carnival's participants. The entire world is seen in its droll aspect, in its gay relativity. Third, this laughter is ambivalent. It is gay, triumphant, and at the same time mocking, deriding. It asserts and denies, it buries and revives, such as the laughter of Carnival. If we link Bakhtin's explanation of the power that carnival laughter has to the features of liminoid experiences, we're going to find out that, 1, Carnival is celebrated by different individuals who accept to be part of this specific moment that later has a collective and universal effect on both Carnival's communities and the sphere outside it. 2, the sense of ambivalence that Carnival laughter represents emphasizes the idea of unstructuredness that distinguishes the liminoid experience from that is controlled by the society. This also indicates and asserts the free atmosphere of carnivals. This freedom opens chances for experimentation, which contributes to generating new meanings and themes. 3, carnival laughter is a true manifestation of the idea of ledger, which is a major element of liminoid experiences. The last key concept is, the last key concept is Laughtivistic webcomics. I coined the term to refer to comics created and or posted on digital platforms. The 3 major features that describe Laughtivistic webcomics are: 1, they are social or political, humorous stunts, as defined by Sorensen. Humorous stunts are actions or performances carried out in public to undermine a dominant discourse. The power of these stunts lies in the humorous effect they have, which makes it hard for receivers to ignore. In other words, they urge receivers to think of the message hidden behind this humor. 2, they are created by independent web cartoonists who find in digital platforms alternative pathways to produce and disseminate their work away from mainstream comic corporates. 3, they represent new freedoms in form and content away from corporate sponsorship. The 2 case studies selected for this research are الورقة, or the paper, by Islam Gawish, and Karakib, or the mess, by Ihab Abdullah. The rationale behind selecting Gawish and Abdullah goes back to the following reasons. 1, they both concept of liminoid experience, since the 2 pages are founded by liminal individuals whose projects led to generating a liminoid culture practice that is continuously celebrated and lived by the webcomics communities or the readers of the webcomics. 3, the webcomics posted lead to creating a virtual carnival that is based on ledger that accompanies and characterizes liminoid practices. 4. The two projects were founded after the January 25th revolution to measure and trace the changes that Egyptian society experiences on both social and political levels. So the two pages present an unofficial reading to the reality of post-revolution Egypt. Now moving to the analysis part. The model of analysis this research proposes is based on analyzing the visual and verbal languages to explore how humor is used to deliver the web cartoonists' messages. It also analyzes the different responses posted by readers to emphasize how these responses rework the humorous message delivered through the webcomics posted. Analyzing responses also shows how digital spheres keep digital content in a continuous state of negotiation that allows readers to take part in the process of producing an alternative discourse. In this regard, the responses analyzed in this research are a good example of a state of a carnival liminoid humorous experience that is enjoyed and celebrated by both the web cartoonists and their readers. So let us begin with the first aspect, which is the visual language. In this section, there are two examples of webcomics, the first by Gawish and the second is by Abdullah. The webcomics in this section and the rest of webcomics have yellow boxes, that is the translation of the Arabic text. For the first webcomic, this one, it is posted after the famous trial of the century, when the ousted President Mubarak and the icons of his regime faced charges of conspiring to kill protesters during the 2011 revolution, and also charges of corruption. In this webcomic titled After the Trial of the Century, readers see Mubarak on the right, his former interior minister, Habib al-Adli, an Egyptian attorney, Farid Adib, who was the lead defense lawyer of both Mubarak and al-Adli. The three figures are depicted taking the freedom selfie, as if to tease Egyptians after both Mubarak and al-Adli were cleared of all charges. Despite the negative message of the webcomic that both men are acquitted, humor can still be traced through the visual signs used. It is a visual, the first visual sign is Lady Justice. It is a visual metaphor and specifically a sign metonymy that signifies the power of justice. The scale in her hands shows her duty to restore balance to society. The caricaturic depiction of Lady Justice in this webcomic to deliver the message that delivers the message that she's no longer fair or transparent. The Lady Justice's presence during the selfie moment sarcastically reflects Gawish's uncertainty about the role of justice that's supposed to change after the revolution. Another visual sign is manifested in Gawish's use of symbol body configurations for the three figures. The technique of understatement being used to depict the bodies of the three men intensifies the tone of sarcasm, which has a humorous effect on readers. It also recalls Bakhtin's notion of uncrowning, which is a major festive scene in medieval carnivals. Uncrowning emphasizes the fact that these figures are no longer powerful, at least in the webcomic, and that they are not welcome to be part of the scene of the post-revolution Egypt, which undergoes a state of regeneration and revival. Moving to Abdullah's webcomic. This webcomic is one among a series of webcomics depicting famous public figures while responding to specific issues. One of these figures that Abdullah presents here is Egyptian lawyer Murtada Mansour, who serves as president of Zamalek Club, one of the very famous clubs in Egypt and in Africa as well. He was also a member of the Egyptian parliament for 2 periods. Mansour is known for his bold and aggressive statements when commenting on specific topics. The visual sign in this webcomic is Mansour himself, with his aggressive facial reactions that are familiar to Egyptian audiences. The text also is another visual sign. The link between the visual depiction of Mansour and the text that reads, "I'll bring you naked to here," asserts his aggressiveness and indecency. Another visual sign is evident in the part of the body that appears as a stick figure. Like Gawish, the use of a stick figure to depict Mansour's body is opposed to the aggressive look he has, and this generates humor, and also asserts the idea that he is not presented as powerful as he appears in mainstream media. The act of uncrowning in Gawish's webcomic and the sarcastic depiction of Mansour in Abdullah's webcomic emphasizes the idea of superiority of the Liminoid webcomics communities. I mean here the web cartoonists and their readers, which is asserted through humor or laughter. Moving to the next section, it discusses the verbal language. In the first example, Gawish humorously tackles the news of selecting Mansour as the chairman of Parliament's Human Rights Committee. The webcomic depicts Mansour as talking to Farag, and Farag is an imaginary character that Gawish created to represent Egyptian police informers, asking him to whip the guy gently. The two texts of the webcomic, the title and Mansour's request, shows Gawish's parody of the great contradiction between the selection of Mansour as a chairman of Parliament's Human Rights Committee and his aggressive request, an inhumane request as well. Verbal humor is generated through that opposition between the official script manifested in the news and the and the non-official one that Mansour's language emphasizes. Moving to Abdullah's webcomic. The webcomic was posted after social media spread the news of North Korea's leader, Kim Jong's death. Despite the fact that there is no reference to the news, once the reader reads the text, he or she will realize Jong's death. This text in the webcomic is a famous statement that Mubarak's supporters release on social media platforms to mourn his death. For the first moment, there appears an incongruous connection between the image of Jong and this statement, which relates to Mubarak. However, the reader's awareness of the time when this statement is out enables him or her to resolve the incongruity by realizing that Jong also passes away. Once incongruity is resolved, humor is realized. Abdullah's use of the same statement related to Mubarak emphasizes his sarcasm, which puts Jong on equal footing with Mubarak, as they both represent corruption and dictatorship. Moving to the second part that analyzes the responses to webcomics. There are three different response patterns that users produce to respond to the webcomics of both Gawish and Abdullah. The first is Facebook reactions. The second is comments. And the third is through sharing the webcomics poster. In Gawish's webcomic, The Freedom Selfie, one of the comments was a meme showing a person asking a taxi driver about the way to hell. The humorous meme shows the reader's sarcastic tone that asserts his or her rejection to the news of Mubarak's release. The next slide shows samples of the webcomic being shared by readers. The shared responses also reveal the sarcastic tone of readers who are angry because of the release news. Moving to Abdullah's Kim Young's webcomic. One of the readers used a meme showing Young and his sister. A textual comment humorously comes along with the meme showing Young's sister, bringing him a list of all names of Egyptians who spread the rumor of his death. The next slide shows examples of the webcomic being shared by Abdullah's readers. The comments accompanying readers' posts sarcastically emphasize how Egyptians deal with the news of Young's death when comparing him, especially when comparing him to Mubarak. I now move to the conclusion slide. After analyzing selected webcomics and shows how readers respond to them, the findings of my research are as follows. 1, webcomics are a good example of a liminal practice that exists within the borders of a liminal space, which is Facebook. 2, liminal cultural practices revive Bakhtin's Carnival. The webcomics posted by the 2 web cartoonists succeed to create a collective contemporary virtual carnival that is celebrated by the web cartoonists and their readers. 3, the liminoid communities of webcomics present an alternative reading to reality, which asserts the active role they both play in producing knowledge, or the non-official discourse. This is evident in the response patterns that allow readers to contribute to the reading of the webcomics poster. The last finding is that the virtual luminoid experience of negotiating the meanings delivered by webcomics emphasizes the idea that humor is an effective tool of resistance that turns the luminoid communities of webcomics to counter publics whose version of truth questions and challenges the official one. And then, thank you so much.
Sorry, unmute myself. Dina, thank you very much. Quite a lot to take in there. But I see you've left us a nice amount of time for discussion and questions. So I'm going to ask anybody who would like to sort of weigh in, give us a comment or a question, to please just let me know somehow. You can either post it in the chat box, or you can just wave your hand or turn yourself on, and then we'll enter into discussion. Dina, would you mind unsharing your screens? I wonder if that's a good idea. Yeah, so that we can, yes, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, so while everybody's kind of gathering their thoughts, I think I would like to start off. I've actually got a lot of questions, so I'm just going to start off with one of them, and that's something that struck me very much, and I hope now I'm not going to be too long about building it up, but it's related to the seminar that we listened to last week, which had to do with this idea that there's a certain kind of good humor and a certain kind of humor that is, in a way, not funny. And I think this is what you're dealing with now, is this humor that is kind of ironic and sarcastic, and it doesn't make you laugh. So it's very hard to see, in a way, how this humor is in any sense healing, I suppose, or helpful. So in critique, it just makes you angry. So I found very, very interesting about some of the examples that you showed was that I think it was on the Kim Young one by Ibhab Abdullah. There were emoticons there, and they were of tears and of an angry face. And then some in your Facebook response, there was that ha ha ha, feeling angry. And also with the Lady Justice, I can't remember exactly which strip that was, but you had this kind of sense of justice being kind of undermined, and it really made me feel upset and cross. So it's very interesting that this genre of political critique is called humor, because it's not funny and it doesn't make you laugh. So maybe it would just be interesting for you to comment on that, and then we'll go to Gary.
Yeah, okay. So thank you for your question. I hear throughout the presentation, I did refer to Sorensen's definition of political humor stunts. So basically, these stunts are, if we can say that, non-violent actions of resistance. So they don't involve any kind of violence. They just are released in order to laugh. Not laugh in the real sense of the word. We're not happy, but in order, it's in the sarcastic way. But the idea of resistance still exists. It's resistance after all, and resistance is a really hard thing. It's a kind of hard, serious action. So the idea is that the creativity of the two web cartoonists lie in the idea that how they take that kind of traumatic or tragic or unhappy version of reality when it comes to political incidents or even social ones, and change them in a bit of a kind of caricaturic, humorous way. They don't want people to be happy. This is not the issue, because it's still an action of resistance. But it's the idea of how these two web cartoonists, a kind of I don't want to say manipulate, but it's a kind of creating a kind of a play of as Sorensen said, the play of politics. So if the official system or the mainstream media or even reality just shows us a very hard, uneasy picture of how situations and conditions look like, these cartoonists take that and somehow transform it in a bit light, easy way that delivers the idea that we do not like this, we reject this, we're not unhappy about that, and it opens the space for readers to start just provide and participate in offering and providing new readings to these stunts, to the webcomics. So what I showed, the examples that I showed are somehow done briefly, but the explanation in paper is really quite huge, especially that I adopted the model, the Carnival aspects proposed by Bakhtin, the grotesque imagery and the marketplace language, and I revisited them somehow to offer a model for webcomics analysis. So the model is really huge, the analysis is really big. So what I just wrote here is a kind of a brief to what exactly that exists in the paper. About Young's webcomic, the two faces, the two emojis on the webcomic, if you just look at the language, you'll find that this is a literal translation, and the name of the webcomic is Google Translate. So as we all know that Google Translate does not offer accurate, good translation. So I think that these emojis do connect to the idea of the inaccurate translation. It's a kind of showing the triviality of the whole thing, of the whole situation. So this is a kind of humor as well, because again, the inaccurate translation with the reader's awareness of the idea that this statement relates to Mubarak's death and Jong as well, when the statement is connected to him. So this is all kind of showing that we are living in a nonsensical thing. This is all kind of a comic thing, a farce. So humor is not to make people happy, but definitely people laugh. As an Egyptian reader of webcomics, I laughed because I'm aware of the social and political context. I witnessed the revolution. We're now in the post-revolution period, so I'm really witnessing this. So I laughed, but I'm not happy. It's the kind of laugh, but I'm still sad because this is all it's a farce. It's okay. So humor here is totally different. It's like, this is why I coined the term Laughtivistic, and Laughtivistic here carries the idea of resistance. I derived the term from Laughtivism. And this is a movement, an activist movement founded by Serge Popovic. And Laughtivism is based on the idea that we do use humor, not in the sense to make people happy, but to resist what we don't like. We show that we reject, we don't like that. So.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. Interesting response. Just quickly before we go to Gary, one of the things that our previous speaker said, which was kind of interesting, was that he was, as you say, this kind of ironic, sarcastic, I suppose you could call it I can't get my tongue around that, your word, Laughtivistic kind of person, yes.
Yeah.
And it drove him crazy. He ended up institutionalized, and he has kind of revised his opinions of, just briefly. I mean, he did, I'm not letting out any secrets, he did announce this or mention this in the talk, but it was for him a very unproductive way of dealing with anger about political figures. So it's very interesting. I'd love you to get into conversation, perhaps at our conference. So just a thought there. It was interesting that in a way for him, that kind of humor drove him mad rather than helped in any way. But then the thing is, maybe it should drive you mad. But yes, okay, but thank you very much. I don't want to dominate the conversation now. I'd maybe like to move to Gary, unless you'd like to respond quickly.
I just want to comment, sorry for that, but I just want to comment on the idea of humor as a healing thing. Here in my research, I'm not just dealing with that kind of aspect related to healing, because and this is why I say, or I believe that the webcomics initiatives are a kind of liminoid practices. And according to Turner, he says that liminoid experiences does not have to reach an end. We're still in the in-between, and we can live in the in-between for a very, very, very long time without a resolution. So my own perspective is that I don't care about, or I don't just bear the idea of humor as healing, because we are not now healed so far. So it's a liminoid experience. About the results, we're not sure about the outcome. Maybe we're healed and everything is going to be well and fine and everyone is happy. And here there will be no longer Laughtivistic humor. I mean, it's going to be a humor in the real sense of healing, but for now, till now, and this is very true, we're still in the liminal period, moving from the pre-revolution period to the post-revolution one. So we're not basically in the real post-revolution. I believe that we're still just living this kind of liminoid situation. So for me, I can't just even anticipate how it's going to look like. I mean, at the very end, whether we will reach a final thing or not, but both artists, both web cartoonists do publish and post webcomics, expressing different ideas. So humor here is not, again, to heal, but it's a kind of communal, a kind of collective response to a specific or a certain instant.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, Gary. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andrea. Salam, Dina. Thank you for that presentation. I was very interested in the actual mechanism of webcomics. I've never come across them, and I was wondering if it is a Egyptian or Middle Eastern thing that allows people to express themselves on political ideas without getting themselves into trouble with the authorities that are closely monitored. I lived in Iran for some time, and I understand the difference between your public and your private life, you know, and I was wondering if webcomics was that mechanism that allowed people to say what they felt about politics without getting themselves into trouble with the state in doing so.
Yeah, thank you for the question. This is really controversial because you are now addressing the idea of sponsorship, I think. Yeah, and this is really quite controversial. And I can say that people are 100% free to express their own opinion or ideas on the webcomics, but there is still a space for them when responding to respond to the webcomics. And as you see from the presentation, that the examples of responses, the memes and the comments and even the sharing, the shared responses, you'll find that people find their own way out. They kind of I don't want to say I can't just have the word right now, but they do play it smartly. They are not just clear, they're not just direct like that. We hate, or they can say that we reject that, we hate that, but it's the creativity of and the effectiveness of webcomics is the idea is of urging receivers and readers to create laughter. I mean, to respond within the framework of laughter. And this is the humor that I basically focus on. How do people, as I say it in my paper, there's the webcomics create a kind of an alternative play of politics. So in this play of politics, both web cartoonists and the readers are the heroes. And they play it very smartly. They don't say things directly, and their own tool is humor. So as you see from the responses, they are not just direct. So people, especially Egyptians, because we like humor, they do play it very well and in a smart way. So I can't say that it's 100% free, and this is the case with all digital spaces. But there is a kind of still space for people to express what they have in mind.
Dina, just how do you access web comics? Where do you find them?
They are already on the Facebook. I'm already one of the followers. So again, it's a kind of it's because that I'm aware of the context, and I already have the links on the presentation. I can even just send the links to you here as a message after we finish. It's fine.
Yes, thank you. No, I'm just interested, because in South Africa we don't have web comics per se. I mean, the closest we probably come is South Park, which is an American sort of satirical political commentary. But I mean, we have cartoonists here. So Madam and Eve, I mean, you wouldn't know them probably, but Madam and Eve and Zapira, they regularly critique through humor the state, and not just the state, but all political players, you know. And so, yeah, so very interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. So I see we also have two previous speakers with us here, Isu and Nohaya. Would you like to comment, either one of you? Hello,
good morning. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Yeah, yeah, that was a good presentation, Dina. Well done. Um, my comment would be on humor itself, and
Isa, sorry to interrupt you, but could we see your face?
uh, okay, let me get to.
Are you in your pajamas?
Yeah, I am. I'm actually in my pajamas, so okay, that's not a problem. Let me just put it on. Where is it? Sorry.
It's down in the left-hand corner.
Yeah, I'm trying to get there, but it's not allowing me.
Okay, maybe I can do that. Will that help?
Start my video. Okay, let's see.
There you go.
Am I there? I can't see myself.
No, you're a very, very a dark hole. I was going to say, there you are. Yay, excellent.
Hello.
Lovely, nice to see
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Nice to see you. Yeah. So I just wanted to talk about humor itself, and I think it's a very interesting presentation, which brought a new dimension or something that is new to me. Yeah, but again, sometimes I think we might be overburdening humor by expecting it to serve purposes that other creative arts are not expected to serve. Like when somebody reads a novel, you don't expect the novel to, we approach them differently. So sometimes humor may not make us laugh, but could also make other people laugh. And thank you for that presentation. The idea of liminality also is very interesting in humor. And I think it's central to it because it also helps us to understand that this is a specific moment and not the entire thing. So thank you for that. Yeah, I hope what I said made sense. I didn't prepare to talk. Yeah. All right.
Yes, you're welcome. Yeah.
Thanks, Cecil. Just going back to, I mean, I'm just going to jump in here quickly, and then going back to this liminality that Isu spoke about and the liminoid experience. There was something that I wasn't completely sure about in your presentation of that theory, and one was that you said that the liminoid experience is very much associated with individuality. I think you had sort of leisure, freedom, and creativity. I noted them down there on my paper, and individuality, which I thought was kind of interesting. But then you talked about carnival laughter, and carnival laughter seems to be something that's not individual at all. So I was wondering how the liminoid experience, if it is something that focuses on individuality, is married to carnival laughter. I mean, how does it kind of work?
Yeah, okay. So it's individual when it comes to the initiatives. For example, for Islam Gawish is an independent web cartoonist. He doesn't belong to any kind of institution here. So he started the Wara'a project from the scratch. This is an individual initiative. So all the web comics he produces is a kind of an individual work. And readers as well, when you just go to the page of Islam Gawish and post something, so this is an individual kind of post. You respond to it individually. If we look at the whole picture, the work of Gawish, for example, and the readers' responses, both together, and I'm talking here about the effectiveness of humor, because they all negotiate the meanings of the webcomics through humor. This kind of humor moment creates a kind of virtual carnival that is enjoyed and celebrated by both the web cartoonist and his readers as well. We need to consider the different nature of digital spheres. I mean that it's the kind of online offline thing, so it's not a kind of just one moment and one shot thing to be celebrated, but it keeps on celebrated whenever the reader responds to the webcomic. Another thing that I explained in details in my research in the paper is that humor doesn't stop at the creation of webcomics. I mean that Islam Gawish's role or a presence as an individual doesn't end when or by posting the webcomic, because when following and reading the responses to the webcomics, I found that Gawish responds to the reader's comments. Sometimes a reader sends something, so Gawish, for example, uses or comments on that using part or an old webcomic that he already posted, or click by liking or using one of the Facebook reactions. So again, it's a kind of a humorous movement that is always in flux. It's always active as long as the page is there, as long as people are online, and even the web cartoonist when he's online. So it's always activated. So the most interesting thing about webcomics is the idea that they are always in a state of regeneration. They don't stop at, it's not like the carnivals in real world. I mean, when you have a special setting and then this special setting imposes certain kind of movement and limits people. I mean, I'm talking about the time for the carnival, but the carnival moment on virtual spaces never ends as long as the initiative is there. I mean, the Facebook page is there. So this is very interesting about webcomics, and this is why I believe that it's not a subgenre from webcomics. It can stand as a genre, an independent genre, because it has a totally different nature that distinguishes it from the one, I mean, the comics, whether mainstream or independent comics, I mean, not published or posted on the web. So yeah.
Yes, thank you. I think that's something really interesting with this whole imbrication of our lives now with technology, is that our way of doing humor and our way of doing comics and all of that, and festivals and carnivals and all of that, really in some sense has changed. And you're absolutely right. Then there's this ongoing, or how can you say it, longevity, I suppose, of a comic or a meme that can just stay around and be rethought and how can you say it, reconsidered over and over and over again. And I guess people also then talk to each other about this and they laugh together, so that the very, very individual act of creating a comic, a webcomic, then becomes this very much communal and universal endeavor in the end, if it becomes, if it goes viral or something like that.
Yes, true, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so technology, like it or not, has a very massive influence on very much of our kind of cultural activities. I think we have a minute or two if there is anybody who would like to make a last kind of comment. Otherwise, I think maybe we can wrap up there. I see lots of chats coming in saying very interesting presentation and very cool. We'll check out the webcomics. Yeah, it was a very, very interesting presentation. Lots to think about. Yes, I'm very much looking forward to us, believe it or not, meeting in person at a conference rather than these very much once-off technological productions that we make with these seminars. Although it was very lovely to have you here. Very, very interesting presentation, very interesting research. And yes, so thank you very much. I'm sorry not to have Jenna with us this week, but hopefully next week. So thank you very, very much. Just to mention that next week we will be having a seminar. Now this time I'm hoping I will remember, but it will be oh no, oh goodness me. My memory seems to have escaped me, but it will be a presentation on how, oh my goodness me. All right, sorry, surprise presentation for next week as well. Apologies for my lack of memory. I'm going to blame it on something like COVID or something. But yes, so thanks again to Dina Oleimy for presenting this afternoon, and have a great weekend. Bye all.